Okay, let's begin.
Good morning, Patriot listeners. This is Susan Sjogren-Smith. I'm here with Jeremy Munson, my co-host on Political Pitchforks. And with us today, we have Mike Lindell, candidate for governor and also a longtime owner of My Pillow. Also his campaign manager and election integrity guy, Rick Weibel. Many of you may be familiar with Rick's work as well. But we're here. Today's about Mike Lindell. And I got to tell you, I bought my first My Pillow from you directly, I believe, way back at an art show. And I believe I still have it. I have 10 kids. My husband, I can tell you, everybody has at least 2 My Pillows and 2 travel pillows. No question about it. And we wash them and reuse them. We love them. My dogs have it. We have slippers. So your business, my family may have kept you in business, to be totally honest with you. So I just, as an unofficial plug, I have to say we really, we love your pillows. So
well, thank you.
So I think for me, I love hearing about everything not election related with you because we've all been reading about you in elections for years. So I think it's great for people to get to know you a little better. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your campaign and why you're doing this as a longtime Minnesota lifelong maybe resident?
Yeah, well, born and raised in Minnesota all my life, and as you know by my story, I was a very functioning addict. I was an addict. I was an ex-crack cocaine addict. God set me free of all that January 16, 2009. But on a parallel track, I was always an entrepreneur. I own bars, not a good place for an addict, but everything I did, I started on my own. Nobody handed me anything. I did. I invented My Pillow in 2004. I went. I was turned down at all the box stores. Kind of funny that came full circle with the that they did a couple years ago. But then I went and sold them town to town, a pickup truck at home shows and fairs, where you just said like you got yours, and I built this amazing business. Did my infomercial. First infomercial I did was August of 2011, when we weren't getting anywhere. I told my friends and family, I said, "You guys," I said, "let's pool our money. We're going to make the biggest infomercial in history." And we went to film it. I always had a fear of talking in public, after I came out of addiction. And if you read my book, it's because I had fear of rejection. You don't get rejected if you don't talk, right? And so I went to do this first infomercial. And the night before, they brought in this real producer. And we were doing our reads, and this guy texted the other guy, said, "This is the worst guy I've ever seen. He'll never make it on TV." And he wasn't too far off. The next day, I see the audience, and I went, "Ah!" And it took 2 hours for me to say like 6 words. So I said, "Can we just get rid of the teleprompter? I just want to do it naturally and have it bring in a table like I used to sell all over Minnesota." And that infomercial launched October 7, 2011. I was living in my sister's basement, and I had 10 employees. And 40 days later, I had 500 employees. I was thrown into this massive company, and we were the #1 infomercial in the world by the end of August. And so I focused on My Pillow, and then also when I became a born again Christian, and I went out and I created this recovery network where I would take addicts, and I don't care what your addiction is, it's lindellrecoverynetwork.org, and I do speeches all over the country, getting people to Jesus. And then the summer of 2016, I was invited by Donald Trump. I never watched The Apprentice, didn't know anything about politics, never voted in my life, everybody. Mm-hmm. And I was invited to meet him on August 15, 2016. I go, "What is he? Wow, Donald Trump, wants to meet me." And I was told it wouldn't be it wouldn't be alone, and you weren't going to meet him alone. And whatever you do, don't tell him you were an ex-crack addict or an ex-addict. And well, it was alone. The way God set this up, it was divine appointment. It was alone. I walked into his office, just him and I. He looked at my cross. He says, "Mike, you always wear your cross." He said, "Are you a Christian?" I said, "Yes, Mr. Trump, and this is a divine appointment." But I wasn't nervous. It was really pretty amazing. And I told him, I said, I was an ex-addict, and I kind of looked at him like, and he said, but he was like a businessman and told me his only agenda, he wanted to know about making stuff here in the USA and my story. I've lived the American dream on steroids, and he wanted to know, wow, you make all your products here. He was asking me as a businessman from Minnesota, one of the biggest business. I had thousands of employees, and building it from scratch. And I think he was so intrigued by that, but he wanted to know. We talked about that, and then he said, I told him about me being an addict. I was going to help addicts all over the country, and at that time, my philanthropy, I was putting millions of dollars of my money into helping people with not just hurricane victims, but people in Teen Challenge, Salvation Army, downtown Minneapolis, and and he said, "Yeah, I'm going to stop the drugs pouring in and all this stuff." And I walked out of there, and I went and talked to his employees. I told my wife, I said, "Wow," I said, "I think he'd be a great president." But I didn't know anything about politics. I didn't know a filibuster from a millibuster. I didn't know a Republican from a Democrat. I had never voted in my life.
We don't know Republicans from Democrats sometimes too, so you're not alone.
Right. But it's for me, it was, I didn't think politics mattered. Of course, I was mirrored in addiction, and then coming out of that, for me, it was, hey, this is what I was just like trying to evangelize and get people out of addiction to Jesus, and so I didn't politics. I just kind of ignored. But after meeting Donald Trump, I came back to Minnesota. And I did a press release against my board of directors' advice. I'm going, what would it matter? They go, we're going to lose $500 million. I go, why? I'm just going to go. I didn't understand why would I lose some of my business. And I went and did the press release, and the media here in Minnesota, they just attacked me like no other. And I didn't change. They didn't even know what we talked about, right? Well, anyway, that was then, and at first it was like, wow, that was a training course of getting attacked for nothing. And they took my pillow from an A+ to an F, the Better Business Bureau. It was the attack started then, and they didn't, they never let up, but basically. But anyway, so let's fast forward now to, obviously, I learned a lot about politics. The last 5 years since the 2020 election, I flew probably millions of miles. I've put on 700 hours on my plane that I used to have, going meeting politicians and meeting secretaries of states, attorney generals, governors, all across all 50 states, having concern over our election platforms. And during that time, with all the attacks, the last 4.5 years, I built an amazing platform called Cause of America. Goes out 300,000 people involved in all 50 states, and built up when I didn't have a voice, I started my own network, Lindell TV. And so we would have a voice. But at the same time, my pillow was just getting destroyed. I mean, our own government was called Arctic Frost, Operation Arctic Frost attacked my pillow. All they wanted me was to stop talking, and which I told them I never would. And you got to be this last, and by the way, by the 2020 election, I was considering running for governor then, and then the election happened and so then I went all into just to try and get our country to paper ballots and counted, and sounding the alarm there. Well, then now you fast forward to this summer, and I just I got everything's. I had to get my pillow in a good place. My wife and I said, let's pray about it. I said, and we both I said, I can't do it unless I'm comfortable that my pillow, that I can go 100% all in for governor, and that my pillow's secure. And all the other election stuff, my teams are out there. That's all taking place right now. I don't have to be involved in that anymore. So I'm going, and it's kind of one of those things where, if you remember the movie Armageddon, where they said, I don't trust, quite frankly, I don't trust anyone else to do it.
Right.
And this is something that I don't trust anyone else to not only win, but get the job done right. And I know I can do it right. And I know I have all the tools to be able to, you tell me one thing and I'll tell you what I have now to plug a plug-in tool to not only fix it, but to make it better than it ever was.
Well, this is the perfect place to end this segment. We appreciate all you listeners hanging with us through the break, and we'll be back in a few minutes to continue with Mike Lindell.
Okay, let's begin.
Welcome back to Political Pitchforks on AM 1280 The Patriot. I am Susan Smith here with Jeremy Munson and also Mike Lindell running for governor, and Rick Weibel, his campaign manager. And you spoke briefly about some of the things that you've created. One of them is Lindell TV, and I know you've expressed concern about some of the media issues and coverage. We're in a ton of chaos right now in Minnesota. And, right before Trump got elected, well, I guess in 2014, I do want to comment that the Star Tribune was purchased by Glenn Taylor, and people were really excited that perhaps we were going to have actual news again in Minnesota. And in fact, that has been an ongoing problem, despite a Republican, apparently a Republican, owning the newspaper. We don't get any facts. It's propaganda. And if you open the Star Tribune today, right, it's just an opinion paper. There's just no news. And so for you running for governor, that's the reality, right, that you will face, that we have a media
Right.
so I'd like you to talk a little bit about all the things. We got fraud. We have now the ICE agent, the person who tried to run over an ICE agent allegedly, who was, and
Yep.
now the battle between the National Guard and the governor. Where do you go?
Well, this is the first thing you brought it up, the media. The when the media turned on me in 2016, the Star and Tribune's probably one of the worst newspapers in the country, and I've told them that straight out. When I said I was going to run on December 11th, I gave them an embargo 2 days before. I said, you know what? I said, I can't stand your paper. I'm going to badmouth you every day, until you change your little opinion paper. And it's not just them; it's the news, it's the media. In 4.5 years. There's two things. One is for me, fighting for election platforms in the last 5 years. You had the attack media. Call that the fake news. Call that your CNNs of the world, your New York Times. All these, they attacked me daily, but I welcome that. They all had my number, and the reason I welcomed it is because they would call me and I could get the word out. I didn't care if I got attacked. Everybody saw through that this rubbish out there. These horrible journalists, right? But then you have media like your Fox Newses of the world that don't report certain things. So sometimes stuff not reported can be just as bad as reporting it
Right,
wrong.
that's right.
Okay. And that's your Fox News, your Newsmax when it comes to election platforms. And so we lost that conservative media. That was through lawfare. But then you have, for me, the Minnesota media, what they did for the last 5 years, they wouldn't even report on me. Good, bad, or indifferent. It's like Mike Lindell doesn't exist. So that's another game they play. But what they're doing, like right now, they will twist stuff, and they protected Waltz. They have protected Waltz. Keith Ellison, who's attacked me every day for the last year and a half, my Lindell Recovery Network. He doesn't want a Christian network. Obviously, he's a radical Muslim, whatever he's got going on. And he does not want Mike Lindell network out there helping people. Then you have, of course, anything that they're doing, the mayor of Minneapolis, they cover for anything in the media. So, but we're in a different time, and this is a good thing. You have the social media. If we didn't have all these social media platforms now, remember in January 7th and 8th of 2021, 1.2 million Americans were deplatformed, and a Parler got wiped off the face of the earth. So our voice was like a little tiny dot, like a TV when I was growing up, a black and white TV. You turn it off as kids and it would go down this little dot. You turn it on right before it went out, it'd come back to life.
Right.
That was our voice. Our voice right now goes far and wide. All these social media platforms, you got Elon X, Zuckerbucks, Facebook, but you got Getter, Gab, Vocal. You have all these platforms, and then you have podcasts and shows far and wide. So you can't take a narrative like they did the other day and show you one angle of this tragedy in Minneapolis, showing you this angle. When I first seen that, I'm going, what? Well, there's always, very fortunate that you had another angle, the reality of what happened, right? And then you have things like going on, like I was attacked by our own government for something I never did. And there are many people weaponized by our own government, the FBI, and now called Operation Arctic Frost, by the FBI, the DOJ, and 4 other outlets. This is public knowledge. So they come after me. You didn't see the media out there. Why are you coming at the FBI when they took my phone back in
Right.
September of 22? They surround me at a Hardee's in Mankato and take my phone. Do you know I spent 2 hours witnessing to them about Jesus, going, "Where's your moral compass, you guys?" They go, "Mike, we're just doing our job." I go, "Well, you know what? You know it's wrong, and people are looking at that. That was wrong. Here you have officers, doing their job. They risk their lives every day, and you're trying to twist this into something it's not. I mean, disgusting. At my pillow here at headquarters in Chaska today, we had officers right out front getting some illegals, and they were in the street. And then we had people here in our parking lot, at my employees, yelling at my employees. I can't even say that, F this and F that. I'm going, you know, for what? Because he's illegals? Would you like to see if this guy's a murderer? You don't know what he is here illegally or legal. Why don't you, I like the one where they do the things. Hey, can they come and stay at your house? Can they come and stay at your house if you're so righteous and so, oh, this is what politically incorrect. What is it? I don't get it. I don't understand. But it's because they've been brainwashed and brainwashed and brainwashed for decades, really. And then you have our media here in Minnesota and our politicians that jump on that. Waltz, they did a thing yesterday. It says, "I never said anything like that," or whatever. Then you got the next phrase at the bottom going, ICE is the Gestapo. I never said anything to antagonize. You want to blame some people? You start with Fry and you start with Waltz. Telling these people to go out and fight our police. Remember, these are the guys that let our precinct get burned down in Minneapolis. These are the same people.
Right.
Why are they our enemies? These are trying to help us to preserve the American dream and save our country and save everything. People have good, so we have good lives while we're here before we all go to heaven.
Mike, as governor, what is your plan to address all of the fraud that's been going on in the media? I mean, I know the Democrats' key to winning our state this year is to make this operation in ICE front and center.
Right,
If Republicans are going to win this year, we need to continue to talk about fraud.
Well,
Tim Walz and Mayor Fry, they want this George Floyd 2.0 to be a distraction from the real
Absolutely.
issue here, which is creating a better environment for Minnesota businesses, for employees here, and for the taxpayers in our state. What is your plan as governor to address the rampant fraud in the administration, not just the businesses that are stealing this, the Somali community and others, but for the thousands of employees that work in our state offices who are complicit or participating in this fraud?
Well, first of all, they all go to jail, and if you're here illegally, you're gone. I mean, there's going to be no tolerance. But I want to say that I can address that. It's deviations. I mean, let's just say that Waltz did not know anything, right? Then you got to be the most incompetent governor
Right.
that ever walked the planet,
Right.
and the most negligent. I mean, you get a F minus, and the other way you go to jail. It's one or the other. Either you're the worst governor or you're a criminal too. Okay, so like at my pillow, I said this in a debate I did last night. Like, let's say my business. I look for deviations. Over 300 of I have great leaders and, in my pillow and in my businesses. And if there's a deviation, they all have my direct number. I want to know, good or bad. They will get to me, and we don't sit there and wait for third quarter to come around and go, "Hey, there's $9 billion missing." If I hear the deviation, you dig into it immediately. And I'll tell you what, when I'm governor, all of these platforms, and most of them are welfare platforms that they're frauds in. I would say probably 95% is your welfare platforms, which I have a great fix for. Here's my first move: you get rid of all the fraud, so you get rid of that. Well, that's a lot of money, but also then you better look at these welfare platforms in each one individually. Are they worth having? Does it help anybody? There's people that, if they were really good programs, there's people that never got that money too. Think of those people. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is for 8 years now, actually about 9 years ago, 2015, I started what I believed for these programs. I built this amazing platform where you're using private sector money along with tax money. Now pretend I was the government. Okay, all these needs people want to give from the private sector. They want to give, but they want to give to things they're partial to, or that I don't want to give over here or be taxed over here for something that, number one, maybe doesn't work, or maybe it's I want to know where my money is going and is it making a difference? Okay. So we did this, and I did my first prototype I did was in Detroit. We went there and we got the private sector. Imagine a big GoFundMe thing, kind of like, right? So you have, let's say you have homeless over here. All the private sector, you put up here's the need, here's what the program is. So they put money in here. I covered all the overhead, and then whatever didn't get covered, I paid that too. Well, get this, it saved 80%. 80%. Can you imagine all our welfare programs in Minnesota taking out the fraud and dropping them 80%? You know what that happens? The money that you create there, you can take and eliminate maybe income tax. You definitely got to eliminate sales tax for small business and our box stores to compete with all the shopping online, because we've got to get some people back to the cities too. Get the people back there right now. And the way you do that is you get your law enforcement, so people feel safe again, but you also have to give people a reason to shop at small businesses and these box stores. So that's a big solution I have.
Well,
and,
Mike, we're going to take a break here shortly, but when we come back from the break, I do want to dig into how you can help Minnesota businesses, how we can make a better business environment in Minnesota. And part of that is on the retail side, which I know you have a lot of experience for. My wife recently went to a mall in Burnsville, which is about 90% shuttered. We're seeing a lot of Minnesota businesses struggling in this environment. So when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about making Minnesota a better business environment with gubernatorial candidate Mike Lindell. You're listening to Political Pitchforks on AM 1280 The Patriot.
Okay, let's begin.
Welcome back to Political Pitchforks on AM 1280 The Patriot. I'm Jeremy Munson, a former legislator, here with Susan Sjogren-Smith and gubernatorial candidate Mike Lindell and Rick Weibel, his campaign manager. We're talking about how to make Minnesota business environment great again. And I'd like to hear, Mike, your plan specifically around retailers. I think is a really a big struggle in Minnesota, especially competing with online businesses. There are businesses that are leaving our state. A lot of our wealth creators are leaving for better business environments, better tax environments. The property taxes this year are skyrocketing. What's your plan to really kind of turn around our state economically?
Well, you have to get rid of a lot of these regulations that Minnesota has. People keep asking me, Mike, why would you stay in Minnesota? Why would you stay there? I all my friends, family here. I love Minnesota, but you got to get rid of these regulations. The health care that the employers pay too. It's just it's got to go down. It's got to be revamped. But as far as retailers and small businesses. We had the first mall in the United States, Southdale Mall, and I went there 3 weeks before Christmas. I used to have my pillow stores in all these malls and areas, and the people weren't there. It was just sad. I'm going, the people weren't there. Well, part of it, okay, there's two things, and then you go downtown Minneapolis. Two things. One is you got to make things safe again, especially in the cities. You got to make things safe so people. You go down there and it's like it was in the old days. There was Dayton's on the corner. It was beautiful shopping back in the day, and so you got to take that out. And I have a great way to get the city safe again. And then, but the big thing that I have. And the other candidates can probably say, well, that I don't mind giving these ideas out because this is what we need. Is sales tax. That's a very easy one. And we're in the climate we're in nowadays when Amazon came on, and even My Pillow, anything bought online, you can sit on your phone right now and boom, you got your stuff delivered to your house. Everybody's indoor. Nobody's out shopping anymore, physically shopping. And part of that is if you can get it the same or cheaper online, you've got to balance that teeter-totter. Give people incentive to go shopping physically at the physical stores, and that's easy. No sales tax at that level. And even if you have to raise the sales tax online, so be it. Boom, you got to balance that. They're paying property tax, they're paying rent, they're paying all these things you're putting on the retailer or the small business. Well, who's not going to go? If your people are going to save, they're going to go online. So you get those taxes have to come off, or they have to have incentives for people to go and get their stuff a lot cheaper on or at the physical stores. That's number one, and that will happen. There's a lot of states, a lot of areas where there isn't a sales tax, and where you have a balance, but it's not there. I would balance it even more, and you give because people are they're running out of ideas. The retailers, you got. I was looking, like I say, at one of the malls, and I'm going, coming soon. These stores, I'm going, how are they going to make it? I was worried about them a long time ago. Remember, if our retailers dry up, then the next thing to go is your movie theaters and stuff, which are hurting now anyway. And if people aren't getting out of the house, what are we going to have, ghost towns?
Right.
There was a thing in Portland the other day. This lady walking down the street. Oh, it's really safe here in Portland. You know why? There's nobody there. They're not in downtown anymore.
So the Minnesota passed this paid family medical leave a couple of years ago when the Democrats had a trifecta. The Republicans have been trying to block this for many years. And I don't want to say that we want to end paid family leave. We want to make it optional so that you as an employer can attract employees who that is a benefit that they want.
Right.
I'm self-employed. I am my only employee, and I have to pay almost 1% of my income to the government to have this program for an insurance policy that I can never take because I can't take leave off of my own company.
Right.
So what would you, I assume that you support making this program optional for employers to offer on their own instead of the government mandate for all companies in Minnesota. Is that true?
100%. And I will tell you, like like at My Pillow, this is stuff I've had in for ever since I invented My Pillow and the company got big. If I have a thing where somebody dies at My Pillow, I'm different things. But if somebody dies, and we don't say, well, gee, it's your uncle. You have to be back to work tomorrow. It's one of your siblings or your family member. You got to be back. We'll give you 3 days. Oh, it's your neighbor. I'm sorry, you can't take off. If somebody dies that's close to you at My Pillow, you can take off and get paid and grieve as long as it takes. I mean, it could be a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. And people have appreciated that. No one's ever taken advantage of it, but so what if they would for me? If you're hurt and it's life-threatening, whether it's you or someone else in your family, same thing. You get paid while you're out. So I put in all these things but I make those decisions and people, it's like being human. I'm humanizing my thing. I'm not taxing things and doing something I don't want. There's a thing right now that I worry about, this thing that I think it just came this month, where people that have kids now, you can take off for 4 months or whatever it is and get paid by the government while you're taking care of your child. Well, what's going to happen to that person's job when they come back if he's a key employee? That's it. That's very scary for me, for thinking of people out there. And you can't put it on the businesses. You have to hire them back. What are you going to do in the interim? And this is going to come up a lot. This is going to be a big problem. And our government cannot get on we've got to do more with the businesses making their own decisions. And you know what? If you have better call it incentives, well, then people are going to migrate to you.
Right.
They're going to come where you're at.
Mike, I want to ask you a quick question, because I think this issue you bring up about you treat your company, it's part of a community, and the people that work in your company are part of a community. And I think one of the things that when I grew up in Minnesota and you grew up in Minnesota, we had community, right? We knew each other. People worked in their local communities. And this is one of the biggest reasons we had a childcare problem in Minnesota. We had, moms and dads who were home watching their neighbors' kids, maybe getting paid a little bit of money to cover expenses, no big deal. And nobody's getting rich off of watching their neighbors' kids. But what our state did is they created a problem intentionally by beginning to regulate who can watch kids when and where, and only
100%.
only one family. If you watch kids from more than one family, you got to get a license, and then the government's going to come into your house and tell you don't have a fire extinguisher in the right place, and you're going to get fined or whatever.
Mhm.
And I think this is the way of government in Minnesota and probably all blue states. And I don't think Minnesota's a blue state. I think we've been tricked into thinking that. And I think a lot of Christians stay home and they don't vote because they feel excluded from the government. Our government attack. Look, bars stayed open, churches shut down during COVID, right? So I
Yep.
think that this issue of community and your wraparound program, all this, it all comes back to the same thing. We're supposed to help our neighbors, right? We're supposed to, and we're not supposed to take advantage of our neighbors. So this is, I think, what you're talking about. A lot of this is get at this issue of community, rebuilding our communities.
Right. And you can't, and you're able to do that. You hit the nail on the head. It's regulations. All this garbage regulations that have come into Minnesota. I'd seen a thing in California, Bill Maher. Okay. I'd seen his statement the other day. He was arguing with some crazy nut job left-wing liberal and going, hey, there's nothing wrong with California. And Bill Maher says, regulations. He said, I had a garage door. I was putting in my garage door, and I had to have 4 inspections over a month and a half period to put a garage door in. Now you're talking when you talk about daycare, I babysat from the time I was 8 years old till the time I was 17. And neighbors babysit neighbors' kids, and you didn't have 15 fire extinguishers. You got to have 16 exits on your trailer. We lived in a trailer court. I mean, this is the regulations. Sure, you might need some safety stuff, but you don't need all this where you can't even do it. And then it becomes, well, then let's just set up daycares all over the place, lure centers or whatever they're calling them nowadays with the Somalians. It's disgusting. And
by the way, as to the licensing, Mike, average Minnesotans would tell you it's not even easy to become licensed. They don't know how to work their way through the regulations and getting help, et cetera. Yet somehow thousands of businesses were able to be started by people who are migrants, many who didn't even speak English. And they managed to get these companies started whereas other people can't. So, I mean, our system's broken.
Yeah, it very much is. And that's what I say when I'm governor. I will address each one like it's my only one. That's like, I learned this way back when you see a MyPillow ad or you see me at a trade show or a home show, that's all I had at that time. Then what if I had to live on just that? What if I would want to make it the best it could be. So I'm going to leave nothing behind. I don't care what the welfare program or what the thing is, like you just say for child care. Every day you go boom, and you get great team leaders to lead that, and they're going to be held accountable. You watch our president right now. He doesn't do one thing. He's got 8 tracks moving forward at the same time. I sit with them in the Oval Office. I'm going, this guy's he's the best multitasker I've ever seen. And because he doesn't leave one behind, he makes it, and that's how you got to govern a businessman. These politicians, they're doing stupid things just to get votes or whatever, or just to get, it's disgusting. But yeah, we are very broken, but I don't believe what I heard on the stage the other night and also in a debate. Oh, this could take years, maybe decades to change. No, we're going to do it now. There is now. We get one shot at this. We have to win this midterm. Period. This isn't a thing where, next time. No, it's now. We're in a spiritual battle of good and evil. This is it. It's all come down to this. You talk about that. I mean, we're in that, and this is a perfect time in history too. You got people that are on the left that have that are coming around, I believe, with some common sense. I mean, what's the common sense of having a satanic statue in the Capitol and then you get a reward for it and that's posted? That's a crazy thing. Oh, we got to be fair to the devil? Are you kidding me? Another thing here in the state is Sharia
Mike,
law.
we're gonna take another break. When we come back for our last segment, we're gonna talk about the election here in Minnesota and how it plays out electorally with all of the candidates running on the Republican side. You're listening to AM 1280 The Patriot with Political Pitchforks.
Okay, let's begin.
Welcome back to Political Pitchforks on AM 1280 The Patriot. I'm your co-host, Jeremy Munson, and I'm here with Susan Sjogren-Smith and Minnesota gubernatorial candidate Mike Lindell. When we talk about the race in Minnesota for governor, On the Republican side, we have now 14 candidates who have filed for running for governor. And we have an endorsement process that will happen in May. That endorsement process could be messy. We could have no endorsement. We could have an endorsed candidate. Several candidates have pledged to go on to the primary, regardless of who the endorsed candidate is. And the way our primary works, it's mid-August, and it's about 2 weeks before all the mail-in ballots get sent out across our state. And if we have 6 or 7 candidates running in the primary, and I'll tell you, probably 4 or 5 of them are fairly establishment candidates dividing the vote among the moderate Republicans. Mike Lindell, you are in your own lane in that primary as I see it, and you have about 99% name ID with the primary voters in our state. You have a very, very good chance of winning a plurality. 25% in the primary could be the winner with all these candidates dividing the vote. So how do you, is that how you see this race playing out? And what are you going to do to appeal to the general election voter in Minnesota to win against Amy Klobuchar or Keith Ellison or Steve Simon or whoever's going to be the nominee on the Democrat side?
Well, thanks for asking, because I got a great plan. It's never been done before. I was actually going to do this with the president, and we never got to that. It was in a year and a half ago. I was in Chicago, actually downtown Chicago, and what we were doing is we were gonna. I'm gonna be making infomercials, half-hour infomercials that are gonna start coming out probably by next month. Because in a 1 and 2 minute commercial, it says, "Oh, we raised all this money and blah blah blah," to put out ads saying how bad Waltz is, and you don't really get a chance in a 1 or 2 minute commercial to say, "Hey, what am I going to do?" Like we've talked about on your show. I could go on and on about how I'm going to solve each problem. I just met with the farmers. I met with the teachers. I know how to make schools safe. All these things, but I can't say it. I want to get the word out. Okay, so these half-hour infomercials. It will be educating every Minnesotan of what I'm going to do. How are we going to solve this? Oh, just not just a rah, boy, they're bad, I'm going to be good. No, and here's what we're going to do on day one, and with all the departments. So it's going to be educating them, and they educating everyone from outer Minnesota all the way to Minneapolis, downtown Minneapolis. There's over 200,000 voters that voted for Donald Trump in 2020, and they didn't vote for in 2022. I'm the only one that can get them engaged. You got to get vote out. My voice is bigger than all of them. I have the platforms to be able to, I could draw rallies. I plan on going everywhere in this state, just like I did when I was selling pillows. I'm going to be in every city that I can, in every area. And I'm going to educate them. They got to know what I plan on doing, that I'm not just selling pillows or trying to secure our elections and melt down the voting machines. There's a lot more to this of saving Minnesota. There's so many things. And everyone said, well, Mike, pick 3 things. No, I'm picking them all. And I'm going to educate them all. If you're a farmer in Minnesota, you have a different footprint and a different worry than you do if you're downtown Minneapolis or you're sitting how you're like I am in the suburbs. Every one of them, you have multiple infomercials. Hey, this one, I want to talk about the suburbs in Minnesota. I want to talk about Rochester. You might have another one that addresses St. Cloud. There's different problems, believe it or not, in St. Cloud as there is in Fairmont, Minnesota. There's different. And so that's what I'm going to do. Everyone's going to get educated on what I plan on doing. And then I have another big advantage, and that's the downtown. You talk about, I was told back when I helped the president with his campaign, do you know how much it costs, Mike, to flip a Democrat? I said, if my stuff is so powerful that I flip a Democrat, everyone else falls down, you can blow them over with a feather. Okay. So, and I'm telling you, when I went downtown Chicago a year and a half ago, and I snuck into the DC convention, the Democrat convention, but it was all about getting footage. We went down and questioned me and Mayor Rudy Giuliani, who, by the way, he works for me with Lindell TV. I'm going to have him as an advisor, how to make our cities safe, like he changed New York overnight and beat the mafia and made it one of the safest places in the world to live. But him and I went into the heart of Chicago, and we questioned the blacks and Hispanics, who said that they were going to vote for Donald Trump, even though a lot of them didn't like him. And we asked them why. One of the number one reasons that came out of their mouth was the illegals are taking all of our resources, including places to go in for healthcare, people for addiction. And you get downtown Minneapolis. When I came out of addiction, I was there right there with Teen Challenge, Salvation Army, Union Gospel, putting millions of my own money into helping the philanthropy to help all people that were homeless, that were in addiction, the people on the street that have issues, mental issues. So I'm going to be able to go down there, and if you educate them, I'm not just Mike Lindell. Oh, he's friends with Donald Trump. They got to know that that has nothing to do with what I'm going to do. I've lived everywhere from no forks to four forks. I was one of the guys downtown with no place to live and an attic. So
Mike, can I ask you?
I'm going to be able to. I think I'm going to be able to pull a lot of them too. I will get this whole state to vote.
This
They
is
will vote Mike Lindell.
right now in the Republican Party. One of the battles that we're having is the role of religion in government life and in our communities. And there is a serious divide of people who believe that we need to stop talking about religion. But for people who are Christian, you can't stop talking about religion because it's a part of all the decisions that you make. It doesn't mean people don't fall down and make bad decisions sometimes. Of course they do, but it's how you get back up and how do we help each other, get back up. And so I guess I'd like you to, Donald Trump again brought back the faith office. I know the Democrats don't like that. We don't have a faith office in Minnesota. And our religious liberties are under attack in Minnesota all the time. And so where do you stand on creating a balance between religious freedom and...
There's not going to be a balance. I mix church and state. I spoke from the Oval Office. I spoke from the Rose Garden in the spring of 22 and said, a nation that turned its back on God. We have taken God out of our schools. We need to get back in our Bibles, back in the Word, and in time with our families. I stand by that. And I was thinking about how bad Minnesota has got. You're not going to see a satanic statue in our capital. Gone. And by the way, we are also going to be, I will be getting to ban Sharia law. 8 other states have done that. That's a big problem in our state where they want of these businesses. We can't do business and shut down our lines if it interferes with our Constitution. So I'm going to be very bold for our Christian faith. We are one nation under God, and that God is Jesus Christ.
Mike, can you give us a 2-minute pitch on some ideas you have for reforming healthcare? Because the cost of healthcare is impactful for farmers, for employees, and all across our state.
That's something I'm going to be diving into over the next 2 months. I don't have the perfect solution right now. All I know is that me personally, it's gotten bad, as bad as can get. That's kind of like I saved the hardest one for last. I think that it's got to go to the people. You got all these insurance companies and stuff, and to me. Like I say, that's one I will have over the next month. I'm going to be doing one of the things I do before I give answers. I want answers that are 100% going to work, that I believe 100% in. I got to get more information. One of the things I have an advantage over the other candidates too is I think I know a lot of people. I mean, I'm friends. You could name anyone in Washington. I become very good friends with them, including the President of the United States. So I will be diving into so I'll be looking to see what's out there that works and then making that even better. And that's what we'll launch in Minnesota.
Maybe one thing you should look at is nonprofit status for healthcare companies and whether or not that actually is legitimate.
Yeah.
Right.
Speaking of the president, Mike, a lot of delegates and activists that I've talked to have asked where the president is going to weigh in on this race. And I know that he had at a rally, he said that Mike Lindell should be governor. Do you expect him to come to Minnesota and hold rallies for you, or how do you expect President Trump to come in? And do you think he's going to help? Yeah.
Here's how I'm going to answer that, everybody. I told him we talk all the time. We're friends, and we talk on a friend basis. When I meet with him on something that's involves politics, I go to the White House and I make an appointment like everybody else. In August, I told him, I said I'm thinking of running for governor. He didn't say anything. He was kind of like, okay. And I didn't say anything to him till my wife and I prayed about it. We decided my pillow was safe, so I can put 100% all in. And that was right around Thanksgiving. And I did call the president then, but I did not. And I wanted him to know that I'm running. I don't, regardless if he endorsed me, I would not want to do that and say, hey, I'll run if you endorse me. I'm running because I want to save Minnesota and I care about my state and I care about people. Now, I believe, and I told this the other day, he will endorse the right candidate. He's not just going to endorse me. When I ran for RNC chair, he didn't endorse anybody, if everybody remembers. And so, am I expecting his endorsement? Either way, I'm expecting to win on what I know I have for that what I can do. And
Okay.
I
All right.
did I love that or that love shout out? Absolutely. What he was saying there is Mike cares about our country, he cares about Minnesota, and he was that endorsement? No, but it was a very good thing he said as a friend and going, hey, this guy's done a lot and he will not stop.
Well, you've
And,
got the Lindell bus. You have MikeLindellGov.com.
yeah, MikeLindellGov.com,
.com.
MikeLindellGov.com.
Yep.
And what we're doing, like I say, we've got to get these infomercials out there. We've got to get, I didn't realize how important it is right now. Rick's going, hey, January's huge, it's every day we're doing, we're 12, 15 hours a day right now. And so we can use everybody's help at MikeLindellGov.com. And you just heard what I'm going to be doing. And I've got to educate the people of what I'm going to be doing so everybody knows these are the solutions. And you know what? If one of the other candidates takes some of them solutions and they follow through on it, great. I want to help Minnesota and help us all have the great lives here while we're here and get out and save the American dream, which I've been blessed with, and the Lord has blessed me with an amazing life.
Thank you, Mike Lindell, for being on the show. And you're listening to AM 1280 The Patriot with Political Pitchforks. See you next week.